Padel has booming clubs, it has superstar players, it has billion-euro investors pouring in. But one tiny object quietly powers one of the sport's biggest profit engines, a paddle ball. It's cheap, disposable, and it looks harmless. Yet globally, this category is now worth around 170 to 180 million euros a year, inside a wider ecosystem valued roughly at around $2 billion. Today we're looking at the side of paddle most players never really think about: how paddle balls are made, who actually controls the market, the margins, the logistics, and the growing environmental problem sitting underneath all of it. This is the business of paddle balls. Most players open a can without considering the economics behind it. But unlike rackets, which can last for years, balls are short-lived. They lose pressure quickly, the felt breaks down, and for anyone playing at a decent level, the performance window is tiny. A fresh can last a couple of matches and then it's done, which means every session becomes a repeat purchase. From a business perspective, that's incredibly valuable. Industry reports estimate that hundreds of millions of pressurized balls are used each year. Tennis alone is around 350 million, and new sustainability research suggests paddle is now adding hundreds of millions more, as the sport spreads across Europe and the rest of the world. And because the number of courts keeps rising, already 40,000 plus globally, with projections of 70 to 85 by 2026, the demand for balls keeps climbing alongside it. It's not the flashiest product category, it's probably not the best video idea, but it's one of the most reliable revenue streams in the sport. Even though paddle was born in Mexico and raised in Spain, the balls aren't made in Europe. Almost all pressurized racket sport balls, tennis and paddle, come from Southeast Asia, mainly Thailand, China, or the Philippines. These factories have been producing tennis balls for decades, so paddle simply slotted into their existing systems. Exact production costs aren't made public, but analysts agree on the pattern. The factory cost, well under €1 per can. After branding, distribution, logistics, and retail markup, the same can lands on European shelves for about €4 to €7. That gap multiplied across enormous volumes is where the business works. And with paddle balls, it's almost always sold in 3-ball cans. The format is standardized, efficient, and predictable, perfect for scaling. Inside the industry, clubs sit at the center of the ball economy. They don't buy at retail prices. They buy in bulk, often paying €3 to €4 per can, depending on the brand and the distributor. Then they resell them for 5 to 6, or include them in leagues and bookings. The margin per can isn't huge, but the volume is. A mid-sized club with 6 to 8 courts can churn through thousands of cans a year. Large clubs, easily tens of thousands. And that's before you consider the indirect impact. New balls means better matches, means more court bookings, means more coaching, means more bar spend, and that means more returning players. It's a small product, but it has a surprisingly wide economic footprint. Because paddle balls are light but bulky, shipping is a big part of the story. The journey usually looks something like this. A factory in Thailand or China produces tens of thousands of cases. Everything is loaded into containers and shipped, roughly 30 days by sea, to Europe. A Europe distributor or brand-run warehouse receives the goods. Balls move again, out to retailers and clubs. Each handoff adds a cost, and this is where big brands have a huge advantage. They have infrastructure, distribution agreements, and freight volume to keep the prices under control. Small brands have a harder path. Shipping small quantities is expensive. Inventory that sits too long loses pressure, and without scale, negotiating better rates is nearly impossible. It's one of the reasons the market has condensed around a few major brands. The pro shop might display a dozen logos, but the real power is concentrated. Here are the heavyweights: Head, Dunlop, and Wilson. Head's Pro and Pro S balls dominated during the World Padel Tour era. Dunlop brings decades of racket sports experience and huge presence in Latin America, and Wilson supplies the official ball for Premier Padel. Together they control the biggest distribution networks and the most valuable relationships: federations, major tournaments, large retailers, and top clubs. Next we have the challenger brands: Babolat, Bull Padel, Nox, Valion, and RS, which is especially strong in the Nordic countries. They're strong in rackets and apparel, with balls acting as part of the wider catalogue. Finally, we have white label and club balls. Retailers, clubs, and academies often rebranding factory-made balls. The margins can be small, but consistency is mixed and scaling is difficult. Now we move to a part of the industry that people seem to sidestep: Paddle balls create a huge amount of waste. Because the rubber core is vulcanized and bonded to a synthetic PET felt, the materials are incredibly hard to recycle. Sustainability groups estimate around 350 million tennis balls are produced each year, add hundreds of millions of paddle balls on top, and most end up in landfills or incineration, and they take 300 to 400 years to decompose. In Europe alone, 120 to 130 million used balls between tennis and paddle are discarded annually. Recycling programs, they do exist, but they handle only a fraction of the total waste, and they're still mostly focused on tennis. Pressurizer tubes are a great idea and they extend a ball's life for casual play, but they're not for the top players. And fewer sales aren't exactly an incentive for manufacturers to push that technology forward. It's a tension baked into the business model. The sport relies on a product designed to be thrown away. Ball technology hasn't changed much in decades. Tennis balls today aren't that far removed from the 1980s, and paddle balls are just variations of that formula. And there's a reason for that. If someone created a ball that stayed fresh for 20 matches instead of 2 or 3, players would love it, but the entire revenue model would collapse. Manufacturers don't have an incentive to reinvent the category. Retailers aren't asking for it. Clubs rely on frequent turnover, and players are kept rewarded with new balls. I mean, we all know what it's like to crack open a fresh can. So the product stays as it is, even as demand explodes. As paddle grows, this market is only heading in one direction. There are 3 things driving it. More courts, with 70 to 85,000 projected in coming years. Consumption rises with every new court built. High-level players. More speed, more spin, more rallies, but balls wear out faster. Expansion into hotter regions. The Gulf, Mexico, southern US. Heat kills pressure quicker, which means even more cans. At this pace, in my opinion, the paddleball market pushing 200 million euros by 2030 isn't unrealistic. Unless a genuinely new type of ball appears, recyclable, modular, durable, the same companies will continue to dominate and the waste issue will grow with the sport. So the next time you crack open a can before a match, it's worth remembering. You're touching a product tied to sponsorship deals worth millions, a product that carries huge margins at scale, and a product that's quietly become one of the most important pieces of the entire industry. Paddleballs look small, but behind them sits a business with enormous influence, and maybe the biggest untapped innovation opportunity in the sport. Thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you liked it, give it a like, and I'll see you guys next time.